Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
I think we do miss the noise, and it's good to have it back. Yesterday, the funeral was held for Ido Avigal. May his memory forever be a blessing. He was a 5-year-old boy from Sderot who was killed from a rocket attack. During his funeral, his father Asaf was giving the Hepsed, the eulogy, in which he apologized for not having protected his son. And at this time, Hamas launched a rocket at Kiryat Gat, where the funeral was being held. The sirens went off. According to sources, Hamas's aim was not only attempting to kill more Jews, but this time, after they murdered a 5-year-old, they wanted to disrupt his funeral. I'm not just terrified for Israel, like for all of us. I am so angry. I'm horrified as to what we are watching. And I think at this moment, this past week, for any honest perspective, I think we'll be angry in different ways. I think nearly 2,000 unaimed rockets was sent to kill Jews. I think we're also angry at ourselves that in response to all of this behavior, a few Jews have engaged in absolute thuggish behavior, attacking innocent Arab Israelis in the streets. We're not supposed to do that. But we're still angry at those Arab Israelis who are attacking Jews and those who are burning down synagogues in Israel. I think we can be angry that we're concerned that the breakthrough peace accords with the Arab countries could be in jeopardy. I think finally our anger was coming from the West. The blood libel from Western media outlets. I'm angry at MSNBC. The other day they had an analysis who said there are less Hamas fighters than there are Americans who have engaged in genocide without any follow-up. MSNBC. I'm angry at Hollywood celebrities in the name of their absolute horrid political ideology of wokeness that are condemning our ancestral homeland, where they believe that Jews are the oppressor, the embodiment of white supremacy. We all are angry. I want to use this moment to talk about what's going on in Israel. I want to use this moment to explain what is really happening and perhaps how we can become more unified. First and foremost, I can't speak on Jewish Birmingham, but I can speak on behalf of Temple Emanu-El. We stand in solidarity with the state of Israel. For the past week, the terror organization Hamas has fired roughly 2,000 unguided rockets in the hope of striking any civilian target in Israel, including Tel Aviv. We have one congregant there who is studying, who had to be in a bomb shelter. Thankfully, she has made her way north. We also want to be clear. There is absolutely no equivalence between fired unaimed rockets directly into civilian population centers and responding with aimed fire at terrorists who hide at civilian centers. Israel is the democratic and Jewish state, the unquestionable indigenous homeland of the Jewish people. Jews come from Judea, Arabs come from Arabia. That is a fact. We, the Jewish people, have every right to defend her citizens and her borders. I don't care what the media says. Susan Sarandon, Mark Ruffalo, or Trevor Noah of The Daily Show. We also call on the media to engage in moral clarity. Israel is the victim. Hamas is a terrorist organization dedicating to destroying Israel and murdering all Jews is the aggressor. For those college students, those protesting, those who believe Hamas are freedom fighters engaging in a self-defense campaign, please allow me to read a brief memo of their mission statement. The Jews were behind the French Revolution, the Communist Revolution, and were also responsible for the most revolutions we've heard about elsewhere. With their money, they have created secret organizations which spread throughout the world in order to destroy societies and to achieve the Zionist interests, such as the Freemasons, the Rotary and Lions Club. All these are destructive espionage organizations. With their money, they've been able to take control over the imperialist countries and push them to occupy many states in order to suck the riches of these countries and spread corruption there. Second, what we are watching on the mainstream media, CNN, the New York Times, MSNBC, the BBC, Sky News, the Washington Post, they are engaging in a blood libel. I want this Temple Emanu-El family to know that despite what you hear on television, this has nothing to do with the evictions of 4 homes in East Jerusalem. This has nothing to do with Al-Aqsa Mosque, or known as the Temple Mount. This is really about an eternal political struggle in Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. Abu Mazen, who is Mahmoud Abbas, is serving his 16th or 17th year in his first term in office, which was supposed to be 4 years. He was doing poorly in the polls after he decided to have elections. Because he was doing bad, he canceled the elections. He was losing to his arch enemy, Hamas, the governing party in the Gaza Strip, but there are Hamasniks in the West Bank. 3 weeks ago, when he canceled the election, Abu Mazen knows how to rally up the base. Incitement. And what he did was targeted the most vulnerable members of the Arab society, teens in those 20s and 30s. He told them to start attacking Jews throughout the street and post it on the internet. And this became known as the TikTok Intifada. For those who don't know social media, these are videos. Intifada means uprising, but he wanted the Arab youth to engage in attacking and killing Jews. But Hamas wasn't going to allow the Palestinian Authority, Fatah, Abu Mazen's party, to get the upper hand. They wanted Arabs to buy a shekel worth 5 shekels a knife to kill Jews. They instructed them to arm the Al-Aqsa Mosque, filling it with fire grenades, grenades, smoke grenades, and stones and other weapons and ammunition. But Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, knew that Hamas was going to do this. They knew that Israel would enter the mosque, Israel would be into an escalation, but then Abbas knows that Israel would knock off their political rivals. Israel would also get slammed by the Western media and from those Jew-hating members in Congress, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and a bunch of others, and AOC. This is all about power. And it's all about the destruction of the state of Israel and its eradication of the Jewish people. In 2005, we made the painful decision to leave parts of Gaza. What happened? They elected Hamas. We have offered deal after deal for peace. And the expression that goes for the Palestinians, they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. In Bill Clinton's memoirs, he had the deal with Arafat. They were so close to peace, but he walked away. As Dr. Emanu-El says, the crux here is that the conflict has always been the same. Arab rejection of Jewish self-determination in any borders. The conflict ends only when there's no longer Jewish self-determination. Israel is facing a war against terrorists, Hamas and Fatah. We, the Jewish people living in the diaspora, are facing a war against a blood libel. I am confident that the IDF can defend her borders. But we, Jews who are living in the diaspora in the comfort of this country, we are obligated to get into the fight. This blood libel says that Israel is a colonial occupier. This blood libel says that Israel persecutes its Arab citizens. And keep in mind that the majority of Arab Israelis were polled. They wouldn't live in any other country in the world but Israel. Arab Israelis are in the Supreme Court. Arab Israelis are colonels in the military. They're the chief surgeon at Hadassah Hospital. They are members of Knesset, the parliament. They are not marginalized, despite what you hear. This blood libel also says that Israel trains American police officers, and therefore Israel is responsible for the police brutality in this country. This blood libel says that Israel is a white supremacist state. This blood libel is on most college campuses. Again, it's on CNN, MSNBC, The Times, the BBC, Sky News. And it's a virus because we are allowing it legitimacy. We, the Jewish people. Barry Weiss, whom we hosted last week, said, "This virus can infect the entire population. And that's when the minds of the masses of people become contaminated. It does not end well for the Jewish people." And I think we, the Jewish people, must be the vaccine. And here is how we do it. First, love Israel. I'm not asking us to be a fan of the current government. You can criticize the current government in Israel, but find a way to love our indigenous homeland in your own capacities. Israel is the greatest miracle for the Jewish people in the modern era. I know it's complicated regarding its governmental structure, issues who is a Jew and other identity matters, but it is the indigenous homeland for us. Be a Zionist. And after all, our reform movement adapted in 1999 that we are a Zionist movement who believes in making Aliyah to the state of Israel. I want us to get informed about Israel. Read from Rabbi Gordis, Rabbi Hartman, and other great thinkers. For those who have cable or DirecTV, subscribe to I-24 News. Stay active about Israel. Now that this pandemic's coming to an end, visit there. Take your children there. Understand that Zionism is linked to our Judaism, in our prayers and in our Torah. Israel is the foundation of where Judaism grew, and therefore we are so connected to our land. Acknowledge that we're not going to win the battle of Israel over Facebook, Twitter, and social media. We're going to win when Jews of the diaspora love our homeland and care about it. We're going to win when we don't allow the mainstreamers to win. Change our priorities is necessary. Recently, students at the University of Michigan, my wife's alma mater, tried to pass a resolution condemning Jews in the Jewish state. Our response is simple. For those who are watching me back home, I know you care about the football team and the basketball team. Cancel your season tickets. What happens to our students is more important than what happens on the gridiron. Basketball teams and other sports, when these universities do it to our students, it isn't worth it. For me, my rabbinate, my Judaism, Israel is everything. I will never stop fighting for her, and I am a staunch, passionate Zionist. I've said this to my wife, and she knows that I believe it. I want all three of my kids serving in the IDF, a desk job, but nevertheless, I want them serving their country and living there. We need to care better. We need to realize what our priorities are, because this is going to happen again and again and again. And when our children, our grandchildren go off to college, when they go off to different cities, they're going to face this. Are we going to stop the blood libel? Or as Barry Weiss said, is the blood libel going to contaminate future Americans? And for that, I'm terrified. Israel can take care of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Let's fight for Israel here. It's time. We pray for the peace and security for Israel. And we, Temple Emanu-El, salutes the brave men and women in the IDF, the police, and the first responders. You've had our back for nearly 70 plus years. It's our time to stick up for you more than ever. Our hearts will always be in the East. And tonight we count the number 48 with the Omer, and the only 48 that we are counting tonight is 1948. I ask the congregation to rise for the Omer.